I think the pipeline, and I think this will answer some of your questions that you posed earlier. The pipeline is vibrant. I know there's about 2,400 drugs in the FDA pipeline for oncology, so it is extensive, right? I think what we also focus on is rare and orphan. I think there's about 650 drugs in the pipeline for rare and orphan. So you can see oncology is really, and I don't want to say dominating, but it's an extensive number of the drugs in the pipeline. And I think my presentation at Asembia really always focuses on a few things. I think the first thing is I look at the traditional specialty pharmacy pipeline. I do look at rare and orphan. I spend a lot of time on oncology, as your question would suggest. And I also add in the cell and gene therapies. I think it just gives a broad overview of what the pipeline looks like. And when you think of the audience at Asembia, there could be payers, there's pharma, there's other specialty pharmacies, and I think they get value in the ability to look at the pipeline across the continuum of products, even outside of oncology. And that's a tough question, right? As you think about the drugs that are in the pipeline, you look, they're all expensive, right? So cell and gene have a few products that could be over $2 million a prescription. I look at the drugs that were just approved a couple months ago. You have Aduhelm from Biogen for Alzheimer's disease. That drug is a novel approval. It is expensive, but it's really a first-in-class product for disease state management. And then you have products like Unique, which is a product that's in oncology. You could consider a trend buster. It's going to be expensive. It did get approved under accelerated approval. And then you have drugs that continue to drive the pipeline, even in disease states where you've had mature products. You have Ponvory in multiple sclerosis, which expands that space from a multiple sclerosis treatment perspective. And then lastly, you think of product that was just approved a couple of weeks ago called Skytrofa, which is a product, it's a growth hormone, once a week drug that manufacturers and pharma is still looking at improving products that are on the market. Typically, growth hormone is a therapy that's used daily. So I think all four of those products, if you're a pharmacy director, which I was at one point, you have to look at those drugs as how are they going to manage, how would I manage my PMPMs on a monthly basis. So I think those are products that that could impact you in the recent developments. I think too, there are drugs that may be in the rare and orphan space. Efgartigimod is a new drug for myasthenia gravis. It could be available both IV and subcutaneously. That could be an interesting drug. It's in myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease. So we're seeing more and more drugs in the autoimmune space that a pharmacy director will have to look at going forward. Also, a real interesting drug from BMS called mavacamten. Mavacamten is for obstructive hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I believe that's an oral product. There are no treatment options, I believe, in the space for this drug. So it's a potential first-in-class therapy for cardiomyopathy. And, I don't know what the pricing is. So, I'm at a disadvantage, but I can tell you when it's first in class, it could add to a payer's PMPMs. You look at cell and gene therapy. Regenx Bio has RGX 314, what is for wet-aged macular degeneration. It's a first-in-class one-time treatment in the cell and gene space. So that's also a novel drug. One drug I was going to talk about at Asembia was an oncology drug called mobocertinib by Takeda, as a drug that was in the pipeline that was just actually approved. So it's in my presentation as a drug in the pipeline, but it was approved. It is an oral oncology agent for non-small lung carcinoma. So there are about 8 drugs right there, 4 that were just recently approved and 4 in the pipeline, that if you're looking at managing costs both on the pharmacy side of the benefit as well as the medical side of the benefit, you'd probably have to take a look at those products. However, when you're looking at the pipeline, there could be 20 to 25 drugs, maybe more, in specialty pharmacy approved in the next calendar year. In fact, it's probably more if you're looking at what's occurred over the last 3 years. So there's a number of drugs. You have to look at them all. Some are novel in their approach and first-in-class products. So I think when you come to my presentation, I think you'll see a number of those products and can manage toward them in the future. I think that, the one that I can really talk to is cell and gene therapies. There are a number of products that are already been approved that payers are looking at to ensure that they have the ability to provide the offering to their insureds. Plan sponsors have the ability to afford them. There are payment processes available so that the patients can afford them. I think the the DNA and the cell and gene therapies are the ones in the future that we really have to look at. Very successful, probably very successful therapies in Lou Gehrig's disease, hemophilia, oncology, and others. And I think I've tried to outline a few of them in my presentation that I'll talk about more in depth at the meeting. But the cell and gene therapy is really something in the future that we have to look at because it cures the disease. I think back when you tell a story about a few years ago when Sovaldi first came out for hepatitis C, and it was a cure for hep C. And they called it the $1,000 pill, almost in a derogatory manner, but it was actually a cure for hepatitis C, and it wound up being very inexpensive when you think of that disease state. I'm not saying that $2 million for a cell and gene therapy is inexpensive, but when you think about the curative aspects of this type of therapy and technology, it's a real exciting process in the future. As far as Aduhelm is concerned, that drug, yes, it was controversial. It is really a first-in-class therapy, but I think it provides patients with the hope and ability for manufacturers to continue to bring drugs such as Aduhelm to the market. It's hard for me to comment on the efficacy. I don't work for Biogen. All I know is that it was that advocacy groups and patients and physicians were really looking for new technologies in the Alzheimer's space and the cognitive impairment space. And Biogen was able to bring that to market. And I think as we look at products that have been approved in other disease states over years, you consistently see improvements in other drugs that are going to come down the line even after Aduhelm. So I look at products and drugs in a positive manner. I think if the FDA has deemed that Aduhelm is safe and effective, and patients can begin to use it, I look at it as a positive. I know there's a lot of controversy, but I can't speak to it. I don't know what the sales are or, how that product is in the marketplace. All I can say is that I support the drug only because the FDA has deemed it safe and effective. And we're kind of excited, right? You think about new drugs and new technologies and new therapies. It can only do good things in the future for more products in that pipeline.